For those, I don't recognize all the names in here, but for those of you who are not aware, my name is Donovan, and I work at Johnson PhotoImaging in Bradenton, Florida. So basically, for those who are unaware, we're basically one of the few camera stores in the state of Florida, and we are located on just a little bit south of St. Pete and Tampa. I think I get to wear the lofty title Director of Education. So I get to basically help coordinate and put together events like this, and that's part of my thing. And some of the events, of course, are free like this one. Some, there is going to be a fee for, so just keep that in mind as you check it out. If you want to, you can always stop by Johnson's website at jpiphoto.com, and you can always check out more classes there if you would like to. And I'm going to put the link in there right now for that. We've been doing these webinars quite a lot lately, more so than ever before, for reasons that most of you are pretty much aware of these days. So it's been fun connecting with folks basically from all over the place. I think we have, if I remember correctly, somebody is tuning in from Australia. So thank you very much for stopping by. I appreciate it. If you can, if you don't mind, if you like to, you can always go to on our Facebook page and just click like on there if you like, and that way we can keep letting you notifications about that. Or you can go to our YouTube page as well. But as I said, I'll be posting that stuff a little bit later on, so you'll keep an eye out for that. The video, once it's all said and done, recorded, as I mentioned before, we'll basically process it, and then anybody who's signed up through Meetup or Eventbrite will have that available for them as well, that they can review. And if you missed a specific note or whatever, so you'll have that available for you as well too. Other than that, I think we got questions already starting to pile in, so I'm going to introduce Mr. Blake Griffith. Griffin.
It's all good.
Sorry. Mr. Blake Griffin, who is our Capture One specialist here, helping with us during all this stuff. He's been in our store before, and he's been a very personable person when it comes to educating people about Capture One. I've been using myself personally Capture One for some of my own stuff, and as well as for my incorporating within the workflow of the store. And it's been kind of interesting putting it all together, and it's been a lot of fun. And every time Blake does one of these things, I always pick up something new that I'm like, oh, it does that? Oh, cool. All right, Blake. And as I said, looks like there's one question already, but I'll let you introduce yourself, and then we'll get started.
All right. Sounds wonderful. Thanks so much, Donovan. And thanks everybody for joining us this afternoon, this evening, tonight, this morning, wherever you are. I, of course, as mentioned, I am the channel manager for the Americas for Capture One, which means that I wear a lot of hats, and part of which is going through and holding meetings just like this, where we kind of talk about Capture One and sort of show it off and show what it's capable of. For those who are not aware, Capture One is a raw processing software that's designed to take your raw images from your camera and then, of course, process them into various pieces and make the best images possible. I have been a Capture One user for the last 4 years now, on top of being part of the Capture One family. And so I've got a lot of different ways and a lot of different sort of techniques that I've gotten sort of picked up over the years. And I hope to share some of those with you all today. What we're going to do is instead of being more of a class, because that's definitely something that takes a little bit more time, what we're going to talk about today is going to be a little bit more free form. If you by chance joined us last week, I don't think anybody did, but if you did, we just did sort of a question answer sort of editing session. I'm going to follow sort of a very similar path today, but what we're going to do is going to be a little bit different. So let me go ahead and get my screen shared here, and we'll go from there. Of course, as Donovan mentioned, if you have any questions or if anything pops up, feel free to throw that into the chat. We'll be monitoring that and watching that. Or if you would like, feel free to unmute yourself and give me a holler. That would work as well. Just ask that everybody be nice and don't talk over each other here. So we'll get started. Looks like in true Mac fashion, I actually need to close Zoom and then reopen it. So I will be right back, everybody.
I'll wait for you.
Okay,
And
I'm
make a
back.
host.
Try this again here.
All right. And you're back to being a co-host. You're good to go?
Nope, and it's still not allowing me to share. Okay, let me try one more thing. Let me do a quick restart here and see if that would help. But
all right, well, I'm keeping an eye on Blake. I'll show you what I've been talking about with me with Capture One. And I just got to find the folder where I stuck all of those pictures for you. There they are. All right. I'm going to open all those. There they go. They're loading up. Okay, import all. All right. All right, so I guess we'll have to do it the reverse way, Mr. Blake.
All right, sounds fine. I'll kind of keep plugging away on this end, and we can go from there as well. During my technical difficulties here, have any questions come in that I might be able to answer for us?
Let's see. Can you check if the issues were related with the recording? I'm not sure. I could stop recording and try re-recording again. You try that. But I'm the one who's doing the recording, so let's pause the recording before I get too excited. All right. So the other thing too with Capture One is that you've got basically what they got. Well, since I started with the sessions, right? So I got everything right there. Now it did remember some of the pictures that I had some stars because I had them in other using Lightroom. So I had 5 stars. So it remembered some of the metadata that I exported out as far as it goes. Here's all the images, and you can see them. I'm gonna move this up right here. These are all the images right here. So you can kind of see like some of the things that I was going to share with Blake. So like, for instance, like there's this particular landscape one that I thought was kind of cool to play with. And I thought maybe that'd be kind of a fun one to start off with. And as you can see, the workspace is very friendly as far as opening it up and moving it down, as far as changing some of the things. In fact, you can actually modify the workspace if you'd like to. Where is my workspace? Again, window, workspace up here. So when you go up to, and again, I don't know if you guys can see it in your particular one, if you go up to the top of the menu bar, you go to workspace, and then you can choose a variety of different ones. They have another one that's called migration on there, or not another one, but a one that's called migration. So if you do that, it should kind of reset itself for basically like a Lightroom type of setting. Or you can leave it on the default. Now, since Blake pretty much use the default primarily, is that right?
For the most part, yeah, I'm a default kind of guy. That's how I started learning the software, and that's how it's sort of stuck in my mind.
So I'm going to leave it there on default so you guys can see some of the things that are down there. So anyway, so if you guys see up in here, let me actually grab my spotlight tool, and I'll try to keep the mouse from moving too far around on the screen there. So you can see right here, something that's called library. Library basically has all the particular folders that are built into it. So in this particular case, I got sessions, and then I have the capture folder. Well, sessions already builds all this stuff up. And then it has what's called its trash folder. All this is stored again on the computer. You can see right here, this is all, you can see where it's all being stored. Now you can choose where you go, but right now I just did it as a default. I left it under pictures for my Mac, and that's quite fine. If I really want to get further involved, I'll probably develop my own method of where I want to put it. I do have external drives that I can plug into and things of that nature, but that's something that you would do on your own. But then you have what they call the for the editing one, you can basically reset some of the camera settings. So for instance, right here, since I did shoot it in RAW, you can kind of change some of the metadata, move it around. Let me close some of the things up so you can see a little bit more of them. So you can see there's a couple of different options where you can change on here if you want to do all that. It also has an option for tethering, I think, on this particular option as well, too. So for those who are interested in tethering, again, believe Capture One's got its own little video stuff out there as well, too. Right here is where you would do the bread and butter of all your editing. So you can see primarily a lot of the stuff is pretty much the same as before if you've used any kind of editing software. Pretty fancy tools. You can work with them and do as you will. The thing I like about this is you can actually go into there and you can actually add that stuff into it. I'm trying to remember where it is, though. Here we go. So it's under window, and you go create floating tool. You can actually go in there. You can add other tools to this thing. And you can see there's quite a few tools that are already on there. For right now, I'm going to leave the default on there, but you can see you can kind of mix and match it up. One of the cool things about it, so like for instance, we're set to do white balance. And if I do this, you can see it comes up with a floating tool for the white balance. And there's also the white balance over there. So I could be on the screen and actually modify it if I want to. And since I shot this in a RAW file for Nikon, one of the cool things about it, it's like you could reshoot it again with a different color temperature, or of course you could choose it yourself if you want to do like, sunny, whatever, or you can actually go in, hit the cursor and tap it anywhere in there and see if it'll tweak it up for you. And you can see over there, it adjusts the Kelvin and stuff like that. Then you can modify the exposure. It has, of course, an auto adjust, which is right here. The auto adjust, you can actually change what you want for auto adjust on here as well too, which works out really well for me. So again, I could do that. And of course it changes some of the highlights, the dynamic range, and then I can go down to dynamic range and modify that. They have it here, clarity out here. So instead of like textured and everything else, Lightroom, a few other programs, clarity works out pretty well for that too. You can see I'm already, just by pushing it extreme, it looks pretty cool right there. And of course I can modify the structure. I've been playing around with this Punch, Natural, Classic. Again, I'm not sure if I understood correctly, but Punch was basically like the adjectives to give it a little bit more of a contrast to it. Is that right? Neutral is like a middle of the road type of thing.
Yes. So the way that the various clarities work, I would have to pull up the exact documentation on that. But each one handles contrast in a different way. And so that's kind of the difference. Punchy, yes, is definitely much more of a what am I trying to say here? It's more of a contrast between the edges of items, and it sort of affects that a little bit more versus a natural or a neutral, just sort of changing the way that contrast works on the image.
Yeah, and one of the useful things I felt with Capture One was the fact that right here, I left the shortcut. This right here, where you can do this over here, where you can actually do the before and after. And what that is, I'm doing the shortcut key for before and after. Now up here, you've got before and after up here, so you can click on it and do it there. But again, like with most of the stuff, you can move and customize this toolbar too as well, but I'll get to that in just a second. But the idea is I can move this back and forth, and I can see already there's been some significant changes to the clarity as well. So, shooting at this mountain range, trying to clear up some of the details up there. So it worked out pretty well. And I can leave it on, or I can turn it off. And that's just tapping the letter Y for me to do all that stuff. Oops. And of course, you got the undo keys as well too. Okay, so there's a couple of these little tools up here. You got the pan tool, which again, if you double click on it, you can zoom up and then move around. Again, you can, if you got a mouse pad like I do, you can use your 2 fingers to move up and down if you want to, or you can use this to move this way and that if you'd like to do that. You can see on here they got subtools under all these little arrows too, which I think is kind of cool. Pan, move overlay, move the watermark, yada yada yada. You got a move tool. You got a few other options: crop, straighten. You got stuff again for dealing with keystoning as well too, and things like that. But this is all fairly common stuff as far as some, so so a lot of that stuff that you might be used to in the other programs, it's in there. And actually, this is the first time I ever looked at it this close. That's pretty cool. I like that.
So one of the things that sets Capture One apart from some of the other options that are available is just our processing engine and how it handles raw files and the details that are within those files. So of course, as we took a look at everything earlier, let's go and let's do this. Go to the picture of the cow nose down next to the zebra on the bottom, if we can.
Okay. Yep.
And so this is the image sort of as it came out of camera as a raw file in this case. And then scroll up on that toolbar and let's go to the HDR, the high dynamic range tools that we've got here.
Okay, so other tools.
So right above clarity where you're at right now.
Yeah, okay. All right, hang on. I'm sorry. I got my chat window in front of everything. I only got one screen today. All right, here we go. High dynamic range. Okay.
All right, perfect. So go ahead and take that highlight and let's drag it to the left. So what that's doing is that's taking and bringing back some of the highlight details that are in that raw file. So as you saw sort of with it in the beginning at the base mode, a lot of that detail that's in the background was completely blown out. So by being able to back off on those highlights, you can just see how powerful and how much detail really are within those raw files in this case. So that's one of the questions that I get a lot is, why would I want to use a standalone raw processing piece of software? And part of that is, definitely if you want to get the best out of your image, being able to, read and interpret the various pieces within that image are, extremely helpful.
Yeah. That's cool. I like this one. This is a face that only a mother could love, right? Yeah, so let's bring that highlight down again. So you can see that was very well, super overexposed there. I can bring that down in the contrast. Now, what's really cool, oops, that I like about this stuff, it's a little bit too much there, but I want to go back, is that there's this thing that I've been playing around with that's in layers. And the thing I like about this is when I go to layers, I can create a new layer, and I can go in here and fill mask. And there's this really cool tool called Luma Range. Now I'm going to turn the mask on so you can see the mask is covering the whole entire thing. So that's fine. I'm going to go to my Luma Range and I'm going to basically display the mask, and I can actually quickly and efficiently kind of block out some of the extra stuff if I want to. It's a little bit slow right now because I'm sharing, my video processor is now sharing between Capture One, Zoom, Live, Facebook Live. So it's eating up a little bit of the bandwidth. And this is a RAW file. This RAW file is approximately what I think it was like 40 megabytes. I think is what it is. But it's a 24 megabyte shot in Adobe RAW. Adobe Color Space with RAW. So it's a fairly large amount of data for it to be processing, and I can modify that right there. I can change the radius of it, make it a little bit smoother if I want to. And you can see how it kind of modifies on there as well too. And I can extend the range here and there if I want to, or bring it back if I want to do that. Once it's done dithering, you can see that right there, and you should be able to see how it's dithering right now, how it's thinking about it. Again, when I'm operating this normally, the dithering is really not an issue. I'm piloting this on a MacBook Pro from 2016, so that kind of gives you an idea. So now that I've done that, it's only going to affect that one layer. So I could literally go into the highlights again and bring that down even further, and you can see it's just affecting that one area right there. So again, it's I'm only affecting that. I'm not affecting little cute little facey right here. Isn't she adorable? You want to take her home, don't you? So the idea is I can bring this down a little bit more. You can see how it's just only affecting that little area right there. And I could be a little bit mindful about that. And if you don't like what it's doing on it, I could basically go into turn the mask on, and it has options to paint and erase. So if I wanted to add more to it, I could actually, in using my the bracket keys, the parenthetical keys, I could actually come in there and I could paint some extra ones in there, or I could use the eraser tool and take some of it out if I want to do that. So I like this a lot for this type of thing. And you could basically go nuts and keep making one layer after another. So that's kind of a cool little thing that I like about that. It's worked out really, really well. Just to kind of give you an idea of some of the stuff, I'm going to move a couple windows here, just a second. I got a lot of zoom windows here on the bottom. So let me move them up to the top. And I want to see all photos. Move it like this. I think it's towards the bottom of this where it is. So if you look at this photo right here, let me move this back down here. This one, again, this one when I was doing a little more heavy, you can see quite a bit. I've done about 6 different layers, and I can move these layers around too, very easily, much like you would do in Photoshop. And you can modify stuff as you want to go through it all. So again, I like that a lot for that type of stuff. So let's go back up to let's see, there's that little cute little facey wacy. I know I say stuff weirdly. I'm sorry, guys. So anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah. So one other thing too is I like about two on here is I like dealing with the color editor. Now there's a color balance editor down here too. Color balance is pretty straightforward. You got a master, you got a three-way, you got just shadow, midtones, and highlight, which is what the three-way is compensating, talking about. And you can see they even break them down right there, or you can do one big giant master. These little sliders right here. Now, if you got like a little Wacom tablet with a pen, you can be a little bit more critical with this than I can. But you can see I can modify this just by moving this around, bringing more reds out. Again, since I'm only working on that top layer, you can see it's only magnifying or not magnifying, working with that. I can also magnify and make it darker or brighter if I want to do that. Right here, if I can grab it. Is it grabbing it? Probably not. So I can do all that stuff if I want to move this around. Or, of course, I can just click on there and just go nuts if I want to do that. So there's all that fun stuff right there.
So, Donovan, I've got another little piece that I would like to have you demo for everybody.
Sure.
That's actually one of our new features that we just added to our latest release that came out right in the beginning of June. Will you go to the photo of the zebra that has the 3 lemurs in it?
Okay, okay. Give me 1 second. There's a photo with 3 lemurs. I don't know what you've been smoking. No, I'm just kidding. Here we go. That one, right?
That's the one. Yep.
Okay. Let's go back up to here.
And of course, you know, we never want to remove wildlife from a photograph, but just to show you sort of how powerful things sort of are, go ahead now, go to our layers tool, and let's go to the healing layer.
Okay. Layers tool.
Okay, perfect. Yep, go ahead and select the heal there. And then go ahead on the top left lemur, the one that's sort of off on its own, go ahead and paint over and just kind of give that guy a little rough coverage there. All right, and now, utilizing this fantastic piece, we can certainly make that lemur disappear. And very, very, you know, realistically and smartly, Capture One knows sort of what the image is about and how we can make that and switch things around. That can also be used in the case of blemishes or other sort of pieces that are outside of where you would like, you know, anything that you would want to remove from an image. I found that you know, doing that on just our lemur friend there was actually really interesting in how it very accurately removed sort of where that was within the image. And of course, like any of our other layers, you've got the ability to adjust opacity with that as well. So in the event of cloning out trees or other pieces that you're trying to make your best image, you've got the ability to kind of feather that in how you would like to.
Okay, cool. So basically I could go in there and change the opacity. I could see the mask in it. And if I really wanted to go nuts with it, I could maybe play with make it a luma range and make some adjustments in there as well too. That's really cool.
Exactly. I think another good example of that is the image that you've got ends in 483.
This one, right?
Yes, because it's got that power line that's sort of right down the bottom of it.
Mm-hmm.
Utilizing the same tool, you can actually go in and sort of paint on that power line to make it disappear as part of the process as well.
Cool. All right, so I'm assuming make the brush to match the power line a little bit.
You know, you can kind of do it either way. Definitely, the smaller will have more detail, but if you're on a touchpad, doing things a little bit larger probably wouldn't hurt too much.
Okay.
And if you're looking to make it larger, the 2 arrows there next to the mask, the second icon, there you go. That's the one. That should allow you to adjust some brush sizes as well.
Yeah, my video card is like having trouble keeping up with everything. All right, let's try this. So let's see what happens. Let's do some dinkum thinking here. It's probably too much. Oh, there we go. Oh, I cut into the island.
All right. Yep. And it looks like I think I see what was going on there. As if we try to do it as one swoop, Capture One's going to try to grab from wherever. So the good news is that as you're doing it this way, of course, you can always select the round circle to tell where Capture One, where it's picking it out from, and make your adjustments that way as well. You know, as good as, you know, a piece of software is, it sometimes it needs a little help as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like that a lot. I was having some issues. I was trying to do this in Photoshop and try to make it nice and pretty, but I was having issues with it as well. That's not too bad. Let's see, and I should be able to go into here and delete that, right? There we go.
Yes.
So basically what I've done is I've highlighted this one right here. And then if I didn't like it, I can always hit the delete key and that takes it away. It's did a better job when I'm isolating that. That's kind of true with some of these little tools, but this is doing actually a pretty decent little job overall. I think my video is running out on me. Okay, so there's that. So that's like a fun little tool. Now this one, you can see this is a little bit under overexposed as far as that goes. Again, auto adjust also works out pretty well for that, so you can bring that in. You can see it brings up some of the highlights. But again, you know, one of the things I like about this is, again, I can go in there and I can remodify that. One of the things I like doing, again, like I said, was with creating that new layer, filling it in, and doing the lua mat. And I could do this all day long because I just think this is just super awesome. You know, it's not something I've been able to do primarily in Photoshop. So now I got the sky. It's pretty much mapped out where the trees are. If I wanted to make it a little bit smoother on it, I could change the radius. And once that's all done, I hit apply. You can see it's picked out some of the down there now, so that's fine. And then, of course, then I can go in there and I can play around with the settings, bring down some of the dynamic range, bring some of those clouds back in there if I want to do that. You know, bring that stuff in. Now, the thing that I've liked about, again, I was starting to mention too, is this right here, is this color editor. The color editor has been really a sweet tool. So if I don't like a particular shade of blue in there, I can click that. And then with this pie chart of all the colors of the rainbow, I can modify that by selecting more towards this end of the blue spectrum, or I can modify it from over here and over there. Now, I could use these sliders down below to make these adjustments and see all that stuff. But one of the things I found very useful is that I can go over here, click on these ellipses, and create a mask layer from the selection. And what that does is it makes about, again, the color that you selected. And that way you could actually go to town and pick anything out of there in the area that you want to work with. So if you want to work with all that stuff, you can, and you could just start modifying all that color. If you need to go in there and say, look, I didn't do so good of a job at selecting, I can again remodify it with the loop range and then basically modify that here as well too and start picking some of the other stuff. So,
and as Donovan mentioned as well, since this is all being done non-destructively, you can always go back and change any adjustments that you've made, and it's not affecting your actual image itself, because the image as it sort of exists only lives within Capture One until you export it, and it's only at that export that anything becomes quote unquote permanent, if you want to call it that way.
Yeah. So like I said, I've been having a ball playing around with this stuff. And is there anything else we need to be? What are we up to in time? I know we've kind of dithered around a little bit here, guys. So I apologize for that, with the other issues. But this is just some of the things I've been kind of like, working with to see what I can come up with as far as that goes. So let's take a look at this one, if that's all right. Now, this one it's kind of overexposed on this particular one, but technically it's not overexposed. I was trying to do some motion blur with the water there. So let me see what if I just hit the old adjust button. Yeah, it's being a little slow to me now. Let's go. There we go. Yeah, it's running slow for me now. There we go. That's bringing it down. So again, it's been working out pretty well for me as far as that goes, and I've been very, very happy with that. And the details and stuff have been pretty cool. There we go. Popping it in there. Let's bring that area down a little bit more. Man, like I said, I could play with it for hours as far as that goes. So it's a lot of fun with that. So yeah, those are the highlights that I found that have worked out really well for me. Is there anything else you want me to go over, Mr. Blake?
I think that's probably pretty good of an idea, unless we have any questions that kind of come up. And most certainly, I know that Murphy's Law of technology. Sometimes things don't work quite well. So I'm happy to come back at a later date once we get everything resolved and fixed out. I haven't been seeing anything in the chat, but that also might be part of my issues there. Are there any questions that have come up since I've been kind of bouncing back and forth?
No, I haven't seen anything at this particular time. All right, well, other than that, well, thank you all very much for stopping by. I appreciate it. Georgia says, thank you so much. I'm going to definitely look further into this program. Thank you, Georgia.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thanks for having me, everybody, and have a great rest of your day.
One more thing before you go. So if you guys are interested, I'm going to be doing, Blake and I are going to be doing a low light presentation for the low light group, which we're doing, and I'll talk more about the round the world, what'd you call it again? I'm sorry?
Round trip.
The round trip process. Okay, thanks guys. Thanks Marshall, thanks Linda. All right, I feel like I'm in romper room now. Goodbye. Okay. All right, bye guys.
Bye.